Welcome back, everybody. So glad you're with us again this week as we explore how we're going to move from the marketing and promotional mix into the communication mix. And it's always such an exciting time, I think, because we have spent a long time this semester studying just figuring out where to go, not how to get there. And now, again, we're finally in the mode of how we're going to get there. It's always the creative time in marketing. It's what we typically think of when we think marketing, but I know you know better that marketing is really all-encompassing in an organization. It involves everything from operations to tactical decisions related to communication and how we're going to brand ourselves in that messaging in our organization, which is incredibly complex. So we've moved from this week starting to focus on these communication items that are on the bottom of your worksheet called the communication mix. And in that bag of tricks, we have a variety of things that really focus on our last three remaining chapters in the book, but certainly not limited to those, because every one of these topics, again, could be an entire class, could be an entire major, and there's such complexity into each one of them. So our job here is to get dangerous and introduce the concept and subject to you. And what I want you to do this week is focus on, is this the right communication tactic to go reach my target market in a meaningful way with the messaging that I've already started to think about and develop in the promotional mix based on the experience that I've created and refined in the marketing mix that's priced right and distributed in a creative way to, again, ultimately, the whole reason we're doing all of this is to achieve our target market objective and big picture, make better things happen in this organization, achieve our overall organizational objectives. So this week there's going to be a couple things that we're going to be working on. In particular, you should have finalized your decisions in your marketing mix. You should have your experience defined at the prices you're suggesting to the organization, and a distribution process or thought. You should also have some brand messaging and the identity evaluated or make some recommendations. You should have a piece of sample collateral that you want to share with the organization, and you should also have thought about promotional events as well as other collateral that you may use in this whole process. You should really finalize those decisions. I know we've been brainstorming, but now you should finalize those and make sure you know what exactly the experience you're going to provide at what price, distributed through what, again, in what messaging form, what collateral you're going to use, etc. And with those final decisions, we go back into brainstorming mode in the communication mix, and what we're going to do is brainstorm for each of the communication areas how you could use that for that target market. And then when you go to finalize those, and that's going to be the last thing you do in this marketing plan, you're going to look back and only pick those that make the best sense. And again, we'll go through some guidelines on how to pick those. But your job here is to brainstorm. How could I use advertising? How could I use social media? How could I use community relations or sponsorship or guerrilla marketing? How could I use all those in this case? So again, we don't want to leave any great thought off the table. So your job is to brainstorm, involve others in your life to help you brainstorm, and say, what are all the ways we could go after this target market using this tool or technique? And again, some are going to make a lot better sense than others for you, but we're going to spend time exploring those, and some in better detail than others. For example, this week we're really going to focus largely on social media. And in this chapter in the book, it takes a very little bit of attention, because go back to several years ago, it, again, wasn't getting a lot of attention, so there wasn't a lot to write about. But you're going to find through some supplementary reading this week, too, that social media, as you well know, is incredibly big and complex and important to our industry. We know that it is the number one hit on the internet, for example, is travel-related items. The internet and social media is an important consideration in our industry, and in general, we have not become incredibly sophisticated with how we use it, what we use, why we use it, and become really strategic in terms of content that we're going to use and how we're going to cross all those media channels with that content, etc. So we're going to spend some time talking about some research that's been done in our field. It's new because there's been nothing to study before. So you'll have some supplementary reading. I'd like you to look at the research and the popular press pieces in our Blackboard account this week, and look and see what our industry is saying. Make a discussion board post related to your thoughts or comments related to what you read about current social media practices. And then the bulk of our video and PowerPoint this week is going to be focused on social media, and so again, not a lot of text support for that, but it is expected you do read the text chapter and that you do answer the online quiz related to that as well. The final piece that you're going to do for the marketing plan itself, assignment-wise this week, is you're going to actually develop a social media content calendar for 1 month in the organization. And you go, wait a minute, 1 month? You've been talking about this annual marketing plan. Well, with evolution, we know that it can't be a 1-year social media plan, because why? Because everything changes in social media world incredibly fast, but it is important to have a planning process in place. So you'll be developing a 1-month social media strategy content calendar where you plan out for all the social media channels you plan on using for your target market, and you plan out what kind of content are you going to put in those 4 weeks. Are you going to do photos? Are you going to do a contest? Are you going to do a sales pitch? Are you going to do an information sharing? Are you going to do a profile of a customer or an employee? What are all the things you're going to do? And you're going to plan it out for a month and what you're going to recommend to that agency. Most of our industry does not have, especially the small organizations. We know there's a big difference in social media related to large corporations and the vast majority of industries in our business, and how they implement and utilize social media in terms of marketing communication. So we have some research to support that, but again, very new research, because not a lot has been studied yet, because we haven't been doing it all that long. So it's a new, exciting part of the marketing communication mix still. We need to learn what's going on currently. So again, you'll see some popular press articles, some research articles. I'd like you to, again, make that discussion board post related to what you read in those articles, and then watch the video on social media and all we need to think about. So to get us started, though, what I wanted to do is take you all the way back to the beginning of the semester, where you all did your introduction video and introduced us to you, but also shared a hot marketing communication concept. And you shared thoughts and concepts about everything from direct sales approaches to social media posts to commercials on YouTube to promotions that were done in organizations. And really, I've taken those over the last couple semesters, all of the hot topics, and summarized those into one kind of, here's the top 10 communication recommendations based on the stuff you're giving to our group, and saying this is a really good idea. So now is where you need to tap back into all those really good ideas that you saw from your colleagues and also found yourself, and create those same really dynamic types of communication ideas for your target market. So things to keep in mind, and what I want you to remember are these are my top 10 best communication conclusions based on your work and your suggestions related to what is really working in today's environment. So creating effective communication messages that are memorable and build brand loyalty is our goal here. And as you create and decide tactics like a direct sales approach, well, how are you going to approach that directly? Decide to do an advertisement, what's that going to look like? Decide to do a sponsorship campaign, how are you going to make that a meaningful experience versus one of thousands of messages that people are hit with every day? Not only the language you use and the look and the feel that we talked about last time, but what tactically are you going to use and how? So things you need to remember is being clever and creative, not tacky, right? You need to know your target market and be relatable to them. Very personalized and customized. And we know that's one of the powers of social media, is we can have people feel like it's a customized type of message. We want it to be personal, have a very human connection, and be emotion-based. It amazes me the number of all of us that when we shared our ideas with each other were incredibly personal and incredibly emotional. So don't forget to do the same thing for your organization. The dialogue and interactive nature of it was more effective than not. And again, social media lends itself to an interactive process. It's the only media that we have available to us that is back and forth. It's two-way. Everything else we're pushing on people in the communication mix. The direct sales process is a two-way process too, because we're giving a direct sales presentation, but for the most part, social media is that forum that we can be integrated and engaged back and forth. So really a powerful tool for us. To be subtle, not push the brand aggressively at us, but most all of the things I've seen in recent time from all of your colleagues have really been bigger picture messages. It wasn't like, buy this, come to this hotel, come to this city. It's, boy, here's the emotional feeling, and oh, by the way, come here kind of idea. Very storytelling oriented, about people, about places, about things, giving people bigger pictures about that. Fun, lots of things that were fun for consumers, for employees, for viewers, that it felt like there's an energy or synergy in those organizations and that they were involving other people in that, so don't forget that. Very experience-based, again, going back to chapter 2 in our book, that it isn't just about selling a service or a product. It's about creating an experience and changing people's lives. We have the real niche on that market. I mean, how excited are we based on what we do for a living, and the things that we offer to people are life-enhancing largely, and some of their most important times of their life are engaged with us. So what a neat thing that we may not look at ourselves that way, but we are, so let's take full advantage of that experience kind of idea. Very partnership-oriented, so many of the things that you, again, shared with others who have similar markets and strong brands, strong presence, certainly with charities, but like-minded organizations, both value like-minded and tactical in terms of target market like-minded. Tie in popular trends like philanthropy. Certainly there are, that's a hot charitable causes, right? And cause-related marketing is certainly a hot thought and topic, and we put that under community relations when we talk about that. But again, bad example of doing that is when people leave your retail establishment and you say to them, do you want to give an extra $1 for this charity? Not as good as a practice as even saying, would you like to give $1 to this charity, and we're going to 2 times match everything that our customers give when we give to this X charity. Or getting your employees involved to volunteer with that charity. The trend of even organizations in our industry allowing employees to take paid days off to go volunteer on their behalf. That's a powerful, powerful trend and new thing in our business, whether it's Booking.com giving a couple days a week, to travel organizations allowing you to travel to locations to give back and volunteer and do things. So again, hot trend is cause-related, philanthropy kinds of work, but make it a good use of that versus a kind of slimy, shove our product down them and we're going to show them we're doing charitable good things. Make it a part of your value system, and then it's good. Real people versus actors is certainly one of those trends too, which is interesting. It costs a lot, obviously, for a spokesperson or a brand name, but we've seen lots of people, even recently in the media, who've been spokespeople and have done something that harms their image, which in turn harms those brands when they turn around and let them go. So we see more realness in spokespeople being real people with real stories. So think about that when you're planning out what you want to do and how you want to do it. It's very visual today. Words are, like all these words here on this slide, way too much. We need pictures. We need visuals. That's what people want. So as we look at all of these things, I want you to remember what you taught us, right, and what each other has taught each other about the power of what works today in terms of communication, ideas, and thoughts. So keep these things in mind as you build this communication mix, and as you describe your final decisions in this marketing plan. I want it to be rich with description on what it is you would do if you want to do this social media campaign, then explain it in this week's assignment. And don't just dabble in it and say, oh, we're going to put real people in it. Tell us what you're going to do with those real people, and what's the message, and how often, and how we're going to tie that into what we're trying to do. So I hope that makes some sense. So as we move into this week, into the social media realm. I put the word on there, overwhelmed, because honestly I am. This whole thing, and we know it, we use it, we all are consumers of it at varying levels. But if you just look at this slide here and all the potentially different routes and paths that are available and that are changing all the time, we have to get better quickly. It is a very, to me, scary mediums of choice that we think we're good at, but we have too many organizations hiring part-time people or hiring interns to lead their entire social media movement. Social media is one of many communication mix decisions you're going to make in an organization. What we know in our business, it's a really big one, and it's a really important one. People are using it, but you even know, based on your social media assessment, they're using it with varying degrees of success. And just because they have a channel doesn't mean they're using it right, and it doesn't mean there's anybody on it who are even listening to them. So keep in mind, and this slide reminds me, there's a lot going on in that world, and so we just want to try and again wrap our arms around this one step at a time and become more and more proficient with using these tools. So how are our HTM organizations doing? I hope you're finding that the items and the information you're sharing and you're learning about them are going to make a difference. And what I'm reading from you is you are making a difference with that. So as we move forward this week, keep in mind you've got a couple assignments going on. Take a look at the PowerPoint and video about social media. Stay with us. Keep going. You're doing great. Just so glad to have you with us in our semester, and we'll see you soon. Hope you like the background view this week.